Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, taking a fun and exciting video for you guys today because we're going to be reviewing the Morph 2K. Not the Morph 4K, but a 2K scaler going up to 1440p, 60Hz, at a 444 color space. If you're not familiar with what color spaces are, I'll get into them later in the video, but it's something very important and integral to filmmaking and something I deal with all the time. And honestly, a $199 scaler that's going to go up to 2K where you can let your 4K television finish the rest is definitely something I feel like a lot of people have been asking for. So we're going to go over the Morph 2K today, talk about its features, and it is available to order, so you'll know at the end of the video whether or not it's something for you. And just so you are aware, this 3D printed white case is a prototype sent to me by PixelFX. I'm under no pre-existing conditions to say anything other than what I think about the product, but I want you to be aware of that very much up front. So we're going to be going over all of the different features, doing some captures on things that I find a little bit more difficult to capture on scalers than other objects, and then basically go from there. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. Now, if you just want the TLDR version of this review, I will say absolutely everything I threw at the Morph 2K was absolutely stunning to look at. The feature set and overall update capabilities are amazing. The Wi-Fi built in is a very nice touch, just like the Morph 4K. And for $200, you're getting probably more like $400 worth of actual scaler here. So for the people that don't need a 4K scaler but want a comprehensive analog scaler all the way from composite to RGB and even VGA, this thing absolutely nails the brief when it comes to what it needs to do, and I'm sure it's going to be getting some updates in the future to make it do even more than it currently does, which seems to be at this point in time damn near everything. So taking a look around the back, obviously on the PixelFX Morph 4K, the analog bridge and the analog I/O are upgrades that you install yourself, where on the 2K, you're going to get that SCART port, which is also going to do VGA. You're going to get an S-Video port there as well as component, and one of the component ports will also carry something like composite if you so wish, and you're going to have stereo in. The only thing you're really losing here, outside of it being in 4K, is the fact that there isn't an HDMI port into the device. It is just an HDMI out, but it's one of those things you don't really need to scale HDMI consoles outside of going past something like 2K into 4K, and for Mr. FPJ you can still get direct video mode over an HDMI to VGA DAC, for lack of a better term. And taking a look at the back, you get a really nice set of ports here, and basically everything that you could possibly want to plug into this thing you're going to be able to plug in, so long as you actually have the cables for it. Let's do an early soundtrack sample on something that can be a little bit of a pain, and I'll be right back. So just a little bit of King of Fighters Neo Wave on an actual Thomas Wave arcade board there for you to hear, and I'm going to have other soundtrack samples as well. Now, I don't really think that YouTube needs another video of somebody playing Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis games in RGB, because trust me, everything is going to be perfect there. So we're going to focus on some weird edge cases to show you just how versatile the thing is. And with an actual SCART to VGA adapter, you're going to be able to get VGA in with the audio cable as well. So this is really going to carry every single signal that you could possibly want as far as analog is concerned. And you have your headphone jack there that's going to break out into female RCA cables for your stereo pairing, and for any consoles that just have something like mono audio, you're going to be able to do that as well. You just basically use one of the two leads, but it's going to allow you to use everything from composite all the way up to VGA, and that really is nice. But I know a lot of people are going to have RGB modded consoles or RGB cables for the actual consoles that natively support it, like the Super Nintendos and Sega Genesis and Neo Geo AESs of the world out there. So of course, if you have RGB, you want to go to that because it's going to be the best overall image quality. Now, as far as the remote is concerned, it's basically the exact same remote you're going to be getting with the Morph 4K, and that in my initial Morph 4K review was the one thing I said I wish was a little bit nicer, but honestly, I've gotten used to this point in time. It is functional. It's not going to win any design awards, but it works what it needs to do. And you also have a micro SD card slot. You're going to need that for your firmware updates, as well as all of the different shadow mask, aperture grills, and other screen space effects that you can download directly from the Morph 2K menu once you actually get this thing set up for Wi-Fi, and I'll go over that in just a minute because I really do think that that's the Morph's overall best party trick, being able to actually connect via Wi-Fi using your phone or PC to tie everything together so that you don't have to worry about dragging and dropping files onto an SD card and moving them over for your actual updates. And taking a look inside, getting a little bit of a topless photo here of the Morph 2K, absolutely the same nice design that we saw in the 4K. And I totally get that there's multiple options on the market for scalers, both going up to 1080p, 2K, and even 4K, and each one absolutely has their own unique use case, because it's one of those things. The Morph line of scalers isn't perfect, the RetroTink line of scalers isn't perfect. Each one has something that I would point to and say, I wish it did it slightly different. On the Morph side of things, the remote could definitely be nicer, and I wish there was a couple more filters coming down with that filter package. And on the RetroTink 4K side of things, still to this day on the most recent firmware with my Elgato Mark II 4K PCI capture card, half the time it doesn't ingest audio unless I unhook the HDMI cable and plug it back in, leading to some captures that have just basically not had audio. Don't know what's going on there, but my point is there is not a perfect product out there. There is just the perfect product for you. And because something like the 4K isn't going to be for everyone, especially if you want to add the analog bridges in there, you can go to the 2K at $200 and have an absolute blast of a time getting a really nice piece of hardware. Because the reality is a lot of TVs can go from basically 1080p or 2K to 4K with basically adding no latency whatsoever effectively. So if you want to save some money, it's a really nice option. And I will say it passed my ultimate test for a scaler, doing something like actually ingesting the signal from a Taito F3 arcade board. This is a garbage sync signal. It even fights my PVMs to actually work correctly, but it 100% worked the first time I plugged it into the Morph 2K, and that is definitely it'll sync to basically everything seal of approval. It's also going to be our next soundtrack sample because I love the music, and I'll be right back with more. So obviously I'm like maybe one of 3 people that's actually going to hook up a Taito F3 with a copy of Bubble Memories into a super gun and go RGB out into the back of it. But that is a very fundamental test for me, and it is for you as well, because if it'll sync to something like the F3 with a really ridiculous refresh rate that even makes my PVM happy, then I know you're going to be able to plug any single console into this thing and be totally fine. Dreamcast, Sega Saturn, Sega Genesis, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, N64, GameCube. If it has a console with ports in the back, it's going to work on the Morph 2K, and that's why I test these really weird edge cases, because they're the places that I see scalers fall down flat, because my FrameMeister just did not like to actually sync to an F3 no matter what I did. Or a game like Invasion the Abductors on the Midway Zeus board, also one that outside of the Morph line as well as the RetroTink line, other scalers just do not like to actually get an image in any way, shape, or form. And again, of course, on the Mr. FPJ side of things, you can get direct video out without actually having the HDMI port involved. So that's going to be something really nice as well. And you're going to get the same features set in the 2K as the 4K when it comes to dealing with all of the scaling, all of the different adjustments you can make, and I will get into some of the filters in just a moment, but I really like to do the technical part first because that's what really is important to me. Because when I say whether or not I recommend something, it's got to work for every single weird thing I throw at it for me to be able to say it is a comprehensive scaler. Like moving over to the Neo Geo MVS, this is the 0-slot JAMA board version of King of Fighters 2003. It is not a cartridge, and it looks outstanding here. It's also our next soundtrack sample, so go ahead and listen to the audio quality, and I'll be right back. So it looks good, it sounds good, and clearly you can tell we're getting into some of the more granular settings here because I did apply some mask and different aperture filters. Now going back to the 4K video, I showed you more in depth, and you can watch that video if you want, because I'm not going to retread the same territory because it does things the exact same way. You can use your phone or you can use your PC to get the Morph 2K online. That way you can do all of your software updates, all of the downloading of all the filters that can come over to the 2K without ever having to take the SD card out of your actual device. But the nice thing is, if you just don't really feel like dealing with a Wi-Fi setup, you can do the entire thing just by transporting that SD card back and forth in your computer as well. So it really does give you a nice set of options. And honestly, the firmware process, every single time I use it, everything worked perfectly fine, because I had to upgrade to the review firmware because I had this thing before it was finalized. I actually sent a few notes into the Morph team on things that were giving me a little bit of an issue, and those have basically all been buttoned up at this point in time. So I really appreciated how receptive they were to sending these things out to different people to basically try and break them, for lack of a better term, because that is what I do when I get a unit like this in. I try to find the place that it falls down flat. And as far as the input styles you're going to see here, you're getting composite over different ports. You're getting all your S-video, all different versions of RGB, including TTL sync levels. So you can actually send in that higher voltage sync as well as video versus having something like the 75 ohm sync levels. And that again is a feature that maybe only I and two other people are going to use, but I love that PixelFX basically just as comprehensively trying to add in every single thing. This is truly the Swiss Army knife of $200 2K scalers, and because there is only one $200 2K scaler without this feature set, I guess it's the only Swiss Army knife on the market. And I can sit here and go through every single option that you could possibly want, but you can also watch my Morph 4K review, because basically the Morph 2K is the Morph 4K except the 2K less Ks. That's a lot of Ks in a sentence, but it seems to work. And of course, you're going to have the motion adaptive deinterlacing here, and that is going to be a very nice feature. And there's going to be a lot of other stuff like their Magic Lock dynamic video lock, which is basically going to be able to lock onto any sync rate you could possibly give it and be totally fine. And as far as the lag is concerned, it is extremely minimal. It's not going to affect any gameplay. It's not going to add any frames to your actual gameplay experience so long as you're on the right modes, and that's going to be basically by default. And you do see that I did upload this at 1080p because YouTube doesn't really have a good 2K format here, so I put it at 1080p, but you have all of these different output resolutions, and that is going to be a fun time, including 480p if you so want to. I'm not sure why you'd want to do that, but I can think of a few kind of fun edge cases to do stuff like that. And of course, with all of the frame and sync lock options, you're going to be able to kind of pick everything you want. And you're also going to have the slot mask and shadow mask shaders, as well as CRT beam simulation. A lot of fun things that unfortunately YouTube steps on. And I get it, a lot of you are going to want to see more filters, so I will do a part 2 so you guys can request exactly what it is you want to see out of the Morph 2K if you're still on the fence about it. Because I am one of the people that thinks pixel peeping, while fun, gets in the way of actually sitting down and enjoying games. Because I could spend hours here going over every single mask, the ones that look great, the ones that don't look good at all, depending on what sort of content you're watching, and kind of point out each and every one of them to you. Or I could just tell you it's basically just a toy box for you to make whatever look you could possibly want to, and don't spend too much time doing it, because really you're still here to play the games, because you can get so deep on the tech deep end of things with all of these different looks that you end up forgetting to play the game because you spent too much time actually dialing it in. But as far as the Morph 2K is concerned, for $200, you really can't go wrong if this is something you need. If you're still sitting on a FrameMeister or an original OSSC and you want to upgrade and you don't need a 4K scaler, then this is the end-all be-all of what I would recommend to you guys. And before anyone leaves any comments down below, there can be two brands on the market that both make exceptional quality stuff. Because I use my RetroTink 4K all the time, I use my Morph 4K all the time. One sits in my capture setup, that is the Morph, and one sits on my television, that is the Tink. And as far as the 2K, I'm going to basically put that in my bedroom so I can play some more retro games without moving a scaler over, because I actually just have a 1080p projector in there. I will do a video on that soon because it's kind of a fun setup vibe. But as far as Video Game Esoterica's opinion on this one, for what it matters and for what it's worth to you, I really couldn't find anything that this thing did wrong whatsoever. And the one small issue I found, the Morph team basically took care of in the background before you'll even actually get a chance to play with this thing yourself. And that is straight up a 10 out of 10. So that's the review. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. And if you want to see specific tests in a part 2, leave me that comment as well, because I am happy to check. I just check the things that matter to me. But I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.